You know what I'm most upset about? Is the fact that we did not get these suits in this movie. We got color coordination, everybody's wearing the same thing. I wanted these suits. I thought they looked cool. What is up, Flick fans, and welcome back to my channel. I just watched Dark Phoenix, and that's what we're talking about today. I need you guys in the comments down below. Let me know, did you like this movie? Did you not like it? Were you anticipating it? I can't wait to see what you guys say. Tomorrow morning, I will be ranking all of the X-Men movies, but right now, we are reviewing this film. Let's talk about Dark Phoenix. So Jean Grey begins to develop incredible powers that corrupt and turn her into a Dark Phoenix. Now the X-Men will have to decide if the life of a team member is worth more than all of the living people in the world. First off, not to really acknowledge the thing that happened with a lot of the critics who have reviewed this movie. The last 20 minutes of their screening, there was a fire alarm that went off and there was really nothing they could do about it. Well, my screening today, which was the first official fan screening at 6 o'clock, the movie starts playing. I'm like, I feel like I've seen this before, and I see the Warner Brothers logo, and I realize that we are watching Godzilla. So everybody sits there, starts giggling, and like 3 or 4 different people jumped up as fast as they could and said, hey, this is not the X-Men. I may have been one of those people. It's just weird that there have been so many things happening with this X-Men screening. Who's to blame? So Dark Phoenix is clearly not a film that many people were anticipating. I've been seeing a lot of backlash on Twitter, and even down to the point to where people are saying the X-Men franchise has given us nothing good so far. Well, I have to disagree with that. There have been some really solid, 2 really great films that have come from this franchise, some movies that I will go back and revisit forever, every year until I die. Now, there were also some movies that weren't the best. It is a very mixed franchise, but I would actually go more on the positive side than the negative. So you get to this final chapter of this Fox X-Men universe, a movie that went through reshoots, the word of mouth from people who had heard things about this film from the behind the scenes to how they couldn't quite get the script together and the actors were just kind of phoning it in, and you can see all of that in the result. All of those things were bad, so this film had bad vibes going into it, and I know there are going to be a lot of people that are walking into this movie wanting to hate it. And if you want to hate this film, you will hate this film. I did not want to hate it, but I didn't anticipate much. I was not looking forward to it. I really had no anticipation for this movie because of what I've heard and just the vibes that I got from the trailers. I didn't care all that much about the trailers. I didn't like the idea that they were rehashing the same storyline with characters that we don't know near as much about as we did in X3, X-Men United. And really walking out of this film, that's my biggest flaw, is I did not have the connection with this new cast, excluding McAvoy and Fassbender and the Beast and Jennifer Lawrence, even though she's kind of phoning it in at this point, but the new cast, the younger X-Men, I didn't have that attachment because all we've had really is one movie to get attached to these characters, and really that one movie in Apocalypse didn't do the best job of getting us into the new cast. So then you have this movie that runs off of all of these established plot lines and all of these relationships, and you're supposed to buy into the chemistry of Cyclops and Jean Grey, and you just don't because they did a poor job of building everything up prior. But okay, they didn't build things up prior to this movie. You have the first, maybe the first 2 acts of this film to get us invested in these characters and to understand why these characters feel a certain way, and they try their very best to. With Jean, but I still didn't really buy it. I love Sophie Turner. I think she's a fantastic actress. She's going to go on to do great things and possibly win and get nominated for many awards. I don't buy her as Jean Grey. I did not love the casting originally, and I'm still not completely on board. And if you don't buy the centerpiece of this film, then everything else seems to fall flat. She wasn't horrible in the movie. I just didn't love the writing, and I didn't love the way that she portrayed Jean Grey. And once again, the relationships that is built off of her, I wasn't all that invested in those. I still haven't given you guys how I actually feel about this movie. And you know what? I actually walked out not thinking it's the worst thing I've ever seen. It's not even my least favorite movie of the year. Listen, am I saying this is a good film? No. I don't think it is. There are so many sloppy elements of this movie, plot lines that go nowhere, really awkward fight scenes, some cool fight scenes, and some really cool special effects, but then you have some not so cool fight scenes, and some really horrible special effects, and even worse, character decisions. Very simple things like, there's rain pouring down, and Storm controls the weather. Just make it stop raining. Now I get it, it runs off of her emotions as well, but still, it's just like, Why is she even holding an umbrella? There's a scene where Cyclops is dragging Professor X with one hand while he is firing with the other hand. Was it cool? Yeah, it was pretty cool. And one thing I love about this movie is that it actually showcased the powers of almost all of the X-Men. We'll get into that here in just a second, but this is a full-grown man. All of his body weight. He is supposed to be paralyzed, and Cyclops apparently has super strength because he's just like dragging him with one hand, and it seemed easier than it actually would be in real life. But okay, it's a comic book movie. I can look past things like that. What I can't look past is a very messy plot and very messy direction at times. One thing I can commend this movie on is the fact that it's a very different X-Men film. It doesn't run through the same tropes that we have seen before. Tropes are in there for sure, but it gives us a very different third act, and honestly, for me, the train scene, the one that everyone is talking about, that was actually my favorite part of the movie because once again, you're showcasing the powers of the X-Men. They work together well, and the music by Hans Zimmer, even though it wasn't necessarily X-Men music to me, it's still a really good score, and it's carrying this film's emotional beats, and that worked for me. But it's everything in between, right? You have the train scene at the end, you have the first 15-20 minutes, which I was actually like, you know what? This ain't bad. You have the X-Men working together. They go on this space mission. This is really cool. I miss the costumes from the end of Apocalypse, but I can look past that. But then we get introduced to Jessica Chastain's character, and I want to preface with this. I love Jessica Chastain as an actress. She is fantastic in almost everything that she does, but not in this movie. And it could have been the writing. I think some of her delivery was a bit off. I think some of the dialogue for her character... You know what? I think all of the dialogue for her character was horrible. She is, and that entire clan of individuals, they are some of the worst villains I have seen in years in a superhero movie. It's like two completely different films, the first two acts of this movie, because you have one storyline that I'm kind of engaged with. I mean, I don't buy the relationships, and I'm not completely on board with the characters, but it's at least entertaining. But then you throw in this horrible group of villains, and Jessica Chastain at the head, and all of her dialogue was cringeworthy, and everything she said, it seemed like a really poorly written one-liner, and I look at this entire plot, and she was slightly essential to this plot, but you could have tweaked a few things here and rewritten things here and taken them completely out. If they were not in this movie, I think it would be more positively received. The villains are horrible. Yes, they look cool at the end, but why are they there? Why are they necessary? They completely took me out of the movie, and Jessica Chastain's character was awful. But you know what saved this movie from being complete and utter trash? To me, I know a lot of people are hating it and bashing it online, and that's fine. If you completely hate this movie, I understand, but I'm so attached to this cast, Fassbender and McAvoy and Holt in particular, and Lawrence in the first few movies, but like I said, she has kind of fell off recently. Certain actors, feels like they don't want to be there. Other actors, they're doing a great job. Fassbender is awesome in this movie, but his character was slightly wasted. Another character that was completely wasted, and I won't say why he was taken out of the majority of the film, but Quicksilver. What are you doing, man? You have Evan Peters as Quicksilver, the highlight, I would argue, of 2 of the X-Men movies so far, and you just take him out. What are you doing? Now, I like how they didn't take out Professor X throughout the movie because it feels like they've done that in every movie, but they took out Quicksilver for the sake of the plot, and I didn't like that. Once again, horrible decision-making all throughout the movie. Very dumb things, dumb dialogue, dumb character decisions, and honestly, other than the beginning and that in-train action scene, which both were really fun, and you got to see the X-Men work together, everything else was dull and emotionally hollow, and it felt like the actors just did not want to be there, even though they're so good that they were still giving solid performances. Even Nicholas Hoult, who I think is a phenomenal actor, there is a scene where he is supposed to be super emotional because of what just happened. I bought McAvoy a little bit, but Nicholas Hoult, it just felt like he was completely phoning in that performance, and I didn't buy the emotion, and it was awkwardly shot. Simon Kinberg has written on X-Men films prior. He knows this universe, he knows this world. I just think his first time being behind the camera with something this big budgeted was a mistake. There were some interesting choices, I'll give him that, but overall, I think he needed to start out smaller. Guys, I could talk about this movie even more than I already have, and I definitely will this Sunday on my podcast, but I need to give you a score for this film. Listen, it wasn't the metaphorical train wreck that I anticipated it to be, even though there was a literal train wreck in the movie. But it was still a very below average film, and I'm gonna go a 46 for Dark Phoenix, higher than I anticipated, but still, You had so many things that you did not execute on. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Like I said, tomorrow morning, all of the X-Men movies ranked after that, a few Netflix reviews for you guys, and same thing all weekend reviews, tier lists, all of those things. I appreciate you watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys very soon.